good. Okay, cool. I remember to clear out my phone storage, which is a huge thing. I didn't even consider it like starting, and then I did one, and it said like you're full, like just completely full. So I had to go through. It took me like a couple hours to just go through and delete a ton of videos.
Yeah, I feel like I have so many duplicates.
So many duplicates, like hundreds and hundreds. And it's like I've never really deleted any photos, so I have like 23,000 photos or something just on my phone.
That's how I know it's time for a new phone.
When it just gets filled up like
full.
that. I'm gonna get a cup of coffee actually, because I am relatively fucking hungover.
Yeah, man, do your thing.
Yeah. So I mean, I know I'm kind of walking around still. I guess we should wait until I settle to really get into it. But I really want to ask about New Zealand and like how you're feeling about that, because I know you're leaving in 2 days.
Yeah, it's crazy. My last shift at Little Moss today.
Damn, bro.
Just like that.
Just
like
like
flies.
How long were you at Little Moss? Like all in?
I started in July.
Oh, it's not too long.
Not that long. Yeah, I feel like that's one of the things about cooking is like, if you're a transient person, it kind of like allows quite a bit of wiggle room because you can cook anywhere.
Yeah, you can bring your knives and, you know, travel the world if you want, which is kind of what you're doing.
That's the one thing I'm not sure, because I am not checking any bags, so I don't know if I can bring my knives.
Mm-hmm. I have wondered that, because people do say you can travel and bring your knives everywhere, but it is pretty hard to get a knife on a plane these days. You'd have to check it. That's the only way.
They're all illegal lengthwise. If you put them over your hand.
Oh, is that what it is?
That's what I heard in the States. Like,
if you go this way, you could probably get like a petty knife. But if you go this way,
you're not allowed any knife, I don't think.
Damn.
But like, you know, some places they're like, oh, you can't have a knife that's bigger than like 4 inches or something.
Yeah, 9/11 really fucked up chefs.
The 8-inch and the 10-inch. Yeah. Nah, I bet it's fine if you check them.
Yeah, I'm sure, because people go hunting like across the country. You got to bring your gun, got to bring your bow. Like, check. There's got to be ways to bring dangerous weapons across the country.
There's got to be a way.
We got to figure it out. But fuck yeah, bro. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, dude.
Of course, episode 3. This is great.
Episode 3.
Yeah, this is good. I did away with writing questions completely, because
nice.
I don't think it's necessary. Like, maybe if it's like an oyster farmer or like, I don't know, someone I don't know personally.
Yeah.
And I want to know something specific, I'll write some questions. But if it's just like we're shooting the shit, I don't think it's really worth the time it takes to like write thoughtful questions, you know?
Yeah, I feel like you know cooking pretty well too. So you know what questions to ask about cooking, but you don't do a ton of oyster farming, it seems.
Exactly. Yeah. And so far, honestly, it hasn't been a ton of, I mean, I know this is like a podcast that's supposed to be kind of like we're sitting next to an oven. That's like the whole point, is like food and everything, but we actually haven't talked a ton about food itself. The first episode I talked with Isaiah, and we talked about the Flavor Bible, that book, which I hadn't read, but he gave it to me and I kind of flipped through it. We talked about some stuff in there.
It's a good book.
Yeah, good. And very interesting. We were talking about in the first chapter, there's something where it says like, here, I'll pull it up because I thought it was really interesting. I like having these books here too, like for this, because you can just like pull it off.
You got your reference shelf.
Yeah, it's awesome. This is what we were talking about. Flavor equals taste plus mouthfeel plus aroma plus the X factor. And the X factor is like nostalgia, soul, like all the things that are like less tangible. And we were talking about like how that affects food and how it affects like how you cook and everything. So I guess I'll ask you the same question. Like, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I was honestly thinking a lot about that on the way over, because food can just be for sustenance, but the meals that stick with you the most, they're the ones that have the X factor, if you will. It's like, what does it trigger? Like, is it just a flavor thing, or is it just sensation of like, I'm full? Or is it like, wow, this is like hitting like my whole body. Like I'm getting chills eating this meal. Like,
Mm-hmm.
am I feeling it like in my third eye? Like, is there so much acidity that I feel like I'm channeling a laser beam out of my forehead? Like, do I feel it in the center of my brain? Like, is it releasing serotonin? Every meal is a little different.
It is, dude, and it really like I think nostalgia too plays in such a huge role. Like I used to love like when I was a kid, I was one of those kids that would only eat mac and cheese.
Yep.
And so even now, like I have like a really nice mac and cheese, and it's just like
It
brings
hits.
me right back to when I was like
Yeah.
a little kid at Friendly's, like ordering literally like Kraft mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Which brings you right back, makes it a little bit more special.
No, I do like mac and cheese. It's great.
Great meal, dude.
And then some of them are just like, where you're like, I didn't know mac and cheese could do that.
Yeah. What's your preferred noodle for mac and cheese?
Oh man.
I mean, obviously it's like macaroni and cheese, but
Like for nostalgia purposes, I'm an Annie's Mac guy.
oh, white cheddar.
Yeah, I like the little shells, you know?
Yes, those are
Especially
the best.
because like a standard meal in my house growing up was mac and peas.
Oh,
And,
really?
Peas are great with the little shells because they'll just wear them as a hat.
Oh, that's so cute.
So it's like if everything's in the right place, every noodle or half of the noodles are wearing, they got a pea in them. So it's just like 1-to-1 or 1-to-2, just like a nice ratio.
Mac and peas. I love it.
Peas, yeah.
We used to put this is like not nearly as cute, but like tuna fish and
Tuna mac.
like yeah, and minced
classic.
up pickles. That was what we would do.
Oh, I
And
never
it
thought
is-
about the pickles.
The pickles are good because it gives it a little like brightness.
It's a little acidity.
Yeah, exactly. But it definitely every time I eat it, I do kind of feel as though it's like gruel, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh, you know, like
Yeah,
barely chewing it. But
It's funny because like acidity is something like we didn't have in any of my food really growing up. Like maybe like if we had fish, but like I grew up vegetarian, so I didn't really eat
oh, really? I didn't
fish.
know that.
Yeah, I was vegetarian until I was 13. But since like Rhode Island's such a big fishing state, everyone's like pretty close to the water for the most part. You know,
Mhm.
most people grow up fishing, and like I knew how to gut a fish when I was pretty young.
That's pretty
Like,
dope.
yeah, I remember like 5 or 6. Like my neighbor, we're dragging this bluefish that he just caught. Might have been a striper actually. It was big boy. Like we could not carry the fish, and we were dragging it down the street, and I just remember us like flying it in the driveway just straight on the
On
asphalt.
the fucking pavement. Nice.
I mean, it was a really clean driveway, and but yeah, like very vivid. Like this is my first time gutting a fish. I don't think I ate meat until probably 5 years later.
Wow.
But I
Did you,
know,
when you were a kid, did you want to eat meat, or was that like a decision that your parents kind of made for you?
I wasn't that interested, but I like loved like going and cohogging. Like I'd go down to the end of the street. I'd like dig up clams. I'd be like, nice, that's a good clam. And I'd just throw it back
Oh, interesting.
for years.
So you kind of always had, because how old were you? 5 or 6, you said at that time?
Yeah, I was like pretty young when I started. Like I learned how to cohog and stuff when I was like 6 or 7.
So it's interesting. So you're vegetarian, but you kind of already had this like innate interest in food.
I mean, just like I'm really lucky growing up in Rhode Island. Like we just have so much good seafood, and it's just like it's right there. It's
fucking
like
cool, dude.
unavoidable. Even if you're a vegetarian,
Yeah.
like you're
yeah.
still gonna just kind of get sucked into.
Well, because I feel like most people, when you're vegetarian, it's like a moral decision. So then they're like,
Yeah.
I'm never gonna eat this. But
Yeah,
it's kind of cool that you were able to like experience both. Like you started off vegetarian, and then you're like, okay, now I'm gonna like eat what I want to.
yeah. Honestly, it wasn't even like that too. It's like I just had spent so much time cohogging that eventually someone's like, "Wait, you've never eaten a clam or a quahog in your life?" And I was like, "No, never."
Like, we gotta
I
pop
was,
open one of these
yeah, I
jumps.
was throwing back or like put them on the fire. Everyone else is doing it, but I don't really eat them. And they're like, oh, you gotta have at least one dipped in butter. And I was like, yeah, like it's just a clam, it's not like an animal that has consciousness. So I was like, that
Mhm.
was kind of like where my head was at. I'm like, yeah, it's weird to eat like a cow because I had like spent time at my
Mhm.
aunt and uncle's farm and like met cows. And I was like, this cow clearly has a lot of consciousness. It's very aware of his
Yeah,
surroundings.
cows are fucking smart.
They're really smart.
It's very like weird to look into a cow's eyes.
Yeah.
There's something behind it. Like they're very smart.
They're awesome animals.
Yeah.
I love them. I, try my best not to eat a lot of beef just in general. Obviously, steak is an incredible food.
Yeah.
I've recently been put onto the idea of dairy cows.
Mm.
They also make great steak. Sure, you got to dry age them a little bit, but
I actually haven't tried dairy cow yet.
the dry aging process can help break down a lot of fibrous things. I feel like if we shifted towards that, that'd be really cool.
So what's the difference between, so that's a cow that's raised for dairy, and then what, they would slaughter it when it's kind of at the end of its life?
Yeah, or once it stops producing and is going to get sent out to pasture. So somewhere between like 6 and 10 years old.
And how old is a cow normally when they go to slaughter? Like just for meat production?
It seems like some cattle, veal is
veal,
very young.
Obviously very young, yeah.
Seems like for like the average cattle, it seems like 3 years, but it seems like it varies across the board.
But I feel like that's closer to like recycling a little bit. I know that's kind of weird to think about because it's an animal, but it lives its life producing dairy, and then it gets to live a longer life.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
I feel like that comes with like us having beef so ingrained in our society that like we're not thinking about like, oh, am I just having beef for a special occasion? Like, is this just like a very high quality dinner that I want to have maybe every once in a while, once a week, once a month, opposed to like, I'm gonna have a burger every day for lunch.
Day. Yeah, I'm definitely a bad guy when it comes to burgers. I will always fuck up a burger.
I mean, it's one of those things too. It's like the consciousness of like the animal. It's something that's been like lost through generations just because we've domesticated animals so long. That's like easy to fall into. It's not like, I don't think anyone's like guilty of like eating too many animals or like.
Well, I think it's so true what you said about how it's ingrained in our culture. It really is. Like, before...
We're a cattle country, man.
Yeah.
We're ranchers. Cowboys are a thing associated with America. Other countries think about cowboy culture in Texas, It's like they're 1 and 1. America's cattle.
America. Yeah, all about the steak. But
it's funny, bivalves, growing up and just being like, oh, it's just a clam. It's just a bivalve. Like, doesn't really have like a developed nervous system.
It's a jump off point, going from vegetarian to like eating something that
exactly.
Is yeah.
And I like finally ate one dipped in butter, and I was like, this is incredible. And someone's like, you like that? I was like, this is the best thing I've ever had in my life. And they're like, if you like that, you're gonna love all other meat. And I was like, thanks for saying. I'm gonna keep that in mind. I'm not gonna go for it right away because I still have like a lot of thought and kind of like processing to do with this whole like I'm eating animals now. But I was like, I definitely am eating more clams.
Dude, you eat that first clam soaked in butter, you're like, fucking whoa, bro.
Yeah, fresh off the grill.
Yeah.
Oh man, still love them.
Insane.
Still one of my favorite foods.
I've never had a quahog like that, just like on the fire. I've only ever had like linguine and clams. I've eaten them raw. With just like lemon or something, but I've never like roasted one. I've had roasted oysters on a fire, but I never did it with clams. Yeah,
it's definitely like pretty common in Rhode Island. I grew up going to a summer camp, and if there wasn't a lot going on, we'd go out quahogging and make a little fire, and we'd grab some Tabasco sauce and melt some butter, and we'd all just hang out and snack on clams, and just kind of one of those things that just like really associate with like home. It's like something kind of unique to Rhode Island, eating quahogs, fucking stuffies.
Yeah, I used to do a little clamming. We had a house in like a little like rowboat, and we'd go out to Swift's Beach in Wareham.
I've heard of it. I've never been.
It's a little beyond Swift's Beach. I forget we just called it the Spit. And it would be completely covered, obviously, during like high tide, and then it would come down. And then we'd go out at low tide with just like rakes and buckets, and we had our little thing that you push them through to make sure they're the right size. Yep. And yeah, we take them home, dude. It's one of my happiest memories.
Oh, it's the best.
Like, I was definitely a little older when I first did it, but it's so cool. Like something about going and like harvesting food.
It's so pure.
So pure.
Yeah.
It's like ingrained in the back of our skulls. Like
Yeah.
this is what we're supposed to do, is like go get food, eat it. And it feels really rewarding to some part of your brain when you like go out and acquire food, eat it. Like even though you could go to a grocery store. Yeah.
It just, it feels right.
It does. It does. That's why I got the bow and why I really started practicing archery, is because I want to get to that point where I can go hunt. And it's not like from a place of like, oh, I want to go kill animals, because I actually have a really hard time wrapping my head around killing a land animal.
Totally.
Like I did a fair amount of fishing, killed fish, lobsters, all this stuff. And I would hunt a lot with my dad growing up for grouse.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, I was always like too scared to like shoot the gun, didn't want to kill a bird. And then this past October, we went hunting, and this was probably the first time I was like, all right, I'm going to get a bird. Like that was my goal. Fucking missed every time. I'm not a good shot.
I'm not a great shot either.
Yeah, but I want to start with like birds. Maybe this spring I'll go turkey hunting, see if I can find a guide and kind of like build up. Because I think just going like right for deer is like a little intense.
Yeah, I felt the same way when I used to do some farming in Oregon. I was staying on like a 40-acre property, and I had some sheep and chicken and turkey, and it was always kind of one of those weird things with cooking where you're like, I've processed so many animals, but I've never actually killed an animal.
Yeah.
And there's this big divide in cooking culture where this is like a reality for a lot of chefs is, we spend so much time in the process of doing primal breakdowns, but it is like such a weird and intimate thing, killing an animal. And my first time ever slaughtering an animal was a turkey that I raised. Got him really young as a hatchling. And I was like, I don't think I could name this animal. This is like kind of a lot, because like I'm ultimately going to harvest this turkey for Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's intense.
It was such a good turkey, like great for the flock. All the birds liked him. Hung out with the sheep. The sheep liked him. Just like good flock animal. Got along well with everybody. So when it actually came to like killing the turkey, I was like, man, this
you like
sucks.
Know that turkey. You're like,
I know that turkey.
Someone that you know a little bit.
I know.
Really heavy.
It was really heavy. I like definitely like, shed a tear. I was like, man, this sucks.
No, but that's good, because that's
the reality of food.
That's the reality of food, and that it also shows that you're like,
if you care about your
right, you cared about the turkey. You like, it's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's a bittersweet, sad and beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about getting because I had chickens growing up. We talked about getting chickens or ducks at some point, and I'm definitely like, oh, like it'd be cool, like once they get older, stop laying, like we could eat them. And Sayana is just like not about it. She's like, I will name them, and it will not.
They're going to be part of the family.
Yeah, exactly.
I got that.
But I mean, that's how I grew up as well. Like the chickens that we raised, they would either get picked off by owls, or hawks or something, or coyotes, and then like the other ones just kind of raccoons get in the cage, do their thing, and it's they all went their natural way, but they all had names too. So it's like it's
hard not.
I think as soon as you name it, it's impossible to slaughter it.
It's hard to have an animal really and not name it.
It is, dude. It is.
That's the first time I was at my cousin's farm, and she was taking care of her neighbor's cow. And his name was Daisy. I was like, like when I found out they Daisy got turned into burgers, I was like, I was still a vegetarian at the time. I was like devastated. I was like, man, that was such a good cow. How could they do that? So it's been an arc,
Yeah. But I think it's a good arc, because your appreciation for food and meat is probably through the roof.
Yeah. And also after you slaughter an animal, man, like I don't like when I slaughtered my sheep, I was like, man, I am not eating meat for like a couple of weeks. Like I'm just gonna, I need to be vegetarian for a little bit. And I think that is a good thing. Like I think that is probably why meat is so normalized in the country and so ingrained in society, is because so few people actually slaughter the animals that they eat, that there's this huge disconnect has grown.
Mm-hmm. I think that's 100% true. I remember when I was in butchery class at school, my chef, he was talking about how he went to like a CAFO for pigs,
Mm-hmm.
and how just like absolutely disgusted and blown away he was by just the whole process. And then there was like this room where you would like hit a button to like administer the electric shock after they're like paralyzed and like the whole thing. So you kind of push the button and it kind of like,
Yeah, kill gun.
yeah, exactly. And the guy there who was running the plant was like, oh, like, you want to push the button? And I always think about that. I don't remember if he did or didn't, but that is genuinely why I like want to hunt and go harvest food and everything. Because I think if I want to have a restaurant at some point, like I genuinely believe if I can't kill an animal, like if I can't kill that animal, I should not be allowed to serve it. Like I don't think I could kill a cow, so I don't think I will serve beef. Like it genuinely is just like,
Yeah.
I don't think I could.
Yeah, I think that's why the thing of like ethical harvesting, especially with older animals that have gotten to have a full working life, and before they start dealing with the health problems that come with the old age, like cows, they get old, like they can get pretty old. I think they get up to like 20 or 30 if they're like really pushing it, but they have health complications at that point.
Right,
It's like
yeah.
it gets hard having old animals in general. Like, so it almost makes sense, end of the golden years with like a dairy cow. Like, wouldn't it make more sense to just kind of like segue the country into that? We're already, subsidizing dairy in the first place. There's all these dairy cows out there that are, we don't necessarily need them.
Yeah. And it's so like the food system is very dark when you pull back the curtain.
I mean, there's so many books on it. It's
So
like
many, yeah.
hard to run from. I know Katie Kiefer, who's like one of my food mentors early on. She has a book called "What's the Matter with Meat," and great book if you want to see the inside, darker side.
I need to read more about it because I'm very interested. My only insight into it was I took a food systems class at school. We watched a bunch of videos, like I mean, it was just a class, so we did lectures and stuff. But that class definitely like shifted my perspective a little bit because before that it was like, oh, food is food.
Yeah.
But yeah, seeing CAFOs, seeing the cow farms, even just in videos, I'm like, whoa, like I didn't even really think about how many cows they're packing into like a little fucking thing. And
yeah, I think was it The Jungle by
I think
named
so.
Sinclair.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he has like crazy expose on like the meat industry, and it's crazy because a lot of the companies that he is exposing in that book, they still exist today. They might have changed their names, but like the fact that they're able to like do all that shit then, get away with it and still operate now, it's just like there should probably be a bit of an overhaul on the meat industry, it seems.
Yeah, what do you think of RFK being in the position that he's in after this election?
I mean,
because I know that he
only time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, time will tell, obviously, but like I'm again not super deep in politics, try not to pay attention, but I have heard things like he's going to force Coca-Cola to use actual cane sugar instead of high fructose corn syrup, and to me, I'm like, that's a good change. Like that's obviously sugar's bad, but like I think the less processed food we can get, the better. And I'm really hoping that he kind of like pops the top off of the food system and kind of at least does some housekeeping, like tries to get it a little bit.
There's so much
in the right direction.
Subsidized food where it almost incentivizes some farmers not to farm because they're already getting paid, and Monsanto kind of has a hand in their neck of the woods and having competition. It's like it almost makes sense for there to be a full overhaul, just because subsidized farming could really just be transformed into maybe more regenerative farming or just good old-fashioned crop rotations and kind of maybe do a little bit more healing of the land and letting natural crops grow. And I don't know if you're familiar with seed bombing.
Seed bombing?
Yeah, it's
I've heard the term, but
you make like a mud and manure ball. I'm trying to remember the name of the author who wrote the. It's like a Japanese book about kind of like intuitive farming, but you like pack balls of like mud and manure, like of the clay soil, and you just kind of like throw a bunch in your area that you're gardening, and you kind of let the plants take where they want to take. So you're like creating a garden based on like what the plants want. Like
Mm.
maybe in the shadier spots, your herbs are going to take better. Maybe some actually prefer it a little more in the sun, and that's where they decide to take root. And over time, you seed bomb in the wet season, and you're kind of like making intuitive farms. Seems like that's kind of like something that you lose with monocultures, and be cool to see it come back. If there was
Oh,
a
100%.
massive farming overhaul, and
Yeah,
be great for biodiversity.
I think that would be good. And biodiversity is so important in soil, and it's going away. Like
Yeah.
it's just,
Or monoculture in your
genuinely
soil.
like monoculture farming is just slowly just destroying that topsoil. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, we only have so much time left like this. Like you have to change, or we're not going to be eating vegetables much longer. Like it's a scary thought, dude.
Curious to see how that goes.
Yeah. I've seen. I don't know if they were doing seed bombing, but I remember watching a video, and it was Rene Redzepi and one his farmer, and they like went to the farm, and it literally was just like a field, and I was like, that just looks like a meadow. But they're walking, and they're like, oh look, this is where the fresh asparagus took this year. It's very similar to what you're talking. I think he just kind of spreads the seeds and lets them naturally cultivate.
Yeah.
And then it's like herbs are growing with vegetables, and everything's kind of growing where it wants to grow. And it was
Let your plants be happy,
Yeah. Happy plants, happy food.
Is it the best for productivity? Maybe not in a corporate sense. No.
Yeah.
But like, do we have enough of that? At this point, probably, yeah. Like, are we ever going to totally be rid of it? Definitely not.
Yeah. Well, because
So
there's so many people in the country, in the world, that we need to feed. And it's like, that's really the challenge, is just like scaling it up. People used to grow their own food. Now it's like very rare when people grow their own food or even have a garden. But I think that people should do more of that. 100%. Just grow their food, grow their vegetables as much as possible.
Especially with like LED technology and the accessibility of greenhouses. It's like, if a lot of that farmer subsidy money went into just changing the kind of the modern setup. I mean, a lot of countries like the Netherlands, they've moved so far into LED greenhouses and just kind of centralizing their hydroponics that they can kind of be a little bit more efficient with their space. And I mean, they have to, because they don't have as much farming land as us. But I mean, it doesn't hurt to just let the land do what it wants and reclaim itself to support biodiversity. And like, if you need to have massive outputs of other things, just move to hydroponics. And we have all these warehouses that aren't being used anyway.
And vertical farming with hydroponics is so cool.
I've
seen the like rows of them, and it's so much more space efficient, and just
if we had subsidies going into things like that, probably help the country a little more than milk subsidies. But
yeah,
who doesn't love ice cream?
Dude, ice cream is amazing.
It's great.
We ate dinner the other day, and I forgot we had some Ben and Jerry's in there. Fucking ate the whole little quart, and I just immediately, like, I'm laying in bed and I'm just like, oh dude, like it hurts so bad, but that like temporary mouth pleasure you get is just like, there's nothing that beats ice cream. It is like the best.
And Ben and Jerry's is like
very good.
My favorite, personally.
What's your favorite flavor?
Man, there's so many good ones. I mean, Cherry Garcia,
I haven't tried that one.
Absolute classic. I think it's one of their starring ones. Love Cherry Garcia. Love Ben and Jerry's.
Bang.
So I think that's the one that like got me started on Ben and Jerry's. So I have to say that I love that one the best. But now that we're further along in the in the Ben and Jerry universe, American Dream.
Does that have like cones in it?
Yeah, the chocolate covered cones.
Dude, that's brilliant.
So good. And then I really like the core ones, the caramel sutra, because I love caramel. So it's just like they put a ton of it right in there. Great. And I just had a Boston cream pie one that is topped.
Oh snap!
Yeah, the top has like a thick layer of like chocolate fudge.
Shit, I didn't even know they had all these. I thought they were just doing ice cream, because I'm a creature of habit, so I just get half baked every time, because I love the something about the like chewiness of the dough is very nice. But I didn't know they had all these fancy ones.
They actually just started selling just the dough, frozen. Like they have them at the grocery store now, so you just get like You know, like the dibs, like the little.
Oh my god! Yeah,
Yeah.
don't tell me that, dude. I'm gonna be 300 pounds.
I'm not going to tell you where they are.
Okay, good. Yeah, don't.
That's something for you to find in the future.
I'll sniff them out.
Yeah, they also do the non-dairy, which I think is great because non-dairy milks have become more prevalent and also kind of the topic of like ethical farming. Because like almond milk, so bad for the environment. But
So
like,
bad. I was just about to ask you about that because I remember we were learning in food systems, and I was like, oh yeah, like oh man, cow milk is like so like unethical and all this stuff. And then he was like, I was like, oh, people should just drink
You think
almond
that's
milk.
bad?
And then he's like, oh yeah, guess how much fucking water it takes to make one almond? It's like 8 gallons or something. Like preposterous.
Crazy numbers. But oat milk's pretty chill.
Oat milk isn't it just like oats and water basically, just blended up and strained?
That's really not that bad for the environment.
It's really not. It's just
Yeah.
water.
Hemp milk is great. You know, growing up, my mom is vegan, gluten free, so I learned how to cook pretty quickly because I didn't want to eat like that.
You're like a little kid. You're like, I have to learn how to
I
cook.
should probably, I need to eat some food. But we did have so many alternative milks in the house. I got to experiment with like just kind of like how milks are made. I was really thankful since my mom mostly drank green smoothies. We had a Vitamix in the house, so having a Vitamix growing up and being able to like make your own hemp milk and make your own oat milk and just like having the tools to kind of like see what alternative milk looks like and how you can make it taste better, because sometimes just a neutral non-flavor isn't really what you're looking for, but
Yeah.
it's a vector, you know.
Yeah. Dude, I don't like normal milk. I have a really hard time just drinking like cow milk.
It's good in cereal.
Like if it's in cereal, I'll eat it. But again, I kind of prefer oat milk, like just over it, because I get wigged out
agree.
with cow milk. We learned that it has just like so much like pus and blood in it, and they kind of just like, I mean, they strain it and then they adjust the color. Yeah,
pasteurization.
they can bleach it, and I think that that's kind of icky in a lot of ways.
It's definitely not as clean as oat milk.
Yeah, oat milk is just water and oat, which I love. I like simple. Yeah, fucking cow milk. It gives me the heebie-jeebies
It's
sometimes.
great for cooking. Love cheese.
Oh,
I
yeah.
feel like if you're not making cheese, do we really need it? Like we could just use plant-based.
What have you? So I know you make wine, which I want to talk about. Because I'm very curious about that whole process and just like your experience with it. But do you make cheese as well? Have you made cheese other than like ricotta at Little Moss?
Yeah, so when I was living on the farm in Oregon, I purchased some East Frisian sheep because I was getting really into cheese making. I had a food cart very briefly right when I started cooking in South Kingstown, Rhode Island, and we were making a bunch of cheese. I was mostly making the cheese for our crepes because I was like, I just really like having some mascarpone and
Cheese
some jelly.
and grapes.
I like a little mascarpone and
Yeah. Okay.
it's a nice combo. I mean, sweetening condensed milk is a little bit more traditional, but I don't know. One time my dad made like, he put a little bit of cream cheese and some crepes he was making and some jelly, and I was like, oh, this hits so good. So like just growing up, I was like, man, a little mascarpone in the crepe, kind of nice.
Fuck yeah.
Goes well with the jelly.
Before you move on, I want to the sweetened condensed milk. So Sayana, her mother, they're Chilean, and something that they do, they make it. I mean, it has a bunch of different names in different cultures, like dulce de leche, but they call it manjar. That's what they call it, and you just boil it in the can, and then it gets all dark and everything, and we put that on the crepes. Fucking insane. I have some in the fridge. You can try it after if you want. Fucking.
So I mean, there's a use for cows and dairy.
Oh yeah.
I just don't know if like
Straight up milk.
we don't
like,
all need to drink milk. And it does make the cappuccinos better.
It does.
I mean, milk's pretty great.
Yeah.
Love cows.
Shout out cows.
shout out cows.
But cheese making. Yes, cheese
Yeah.
making.
So cheese is great because you can use so many different types of milk, and the blends really get me excited. And my neighbor was doing goat milk, and they taught me how to milk goats, and I was like, man, it'd be great. I can get goat milk from them. I'm already helping out here, so they're cutting me deals. I'm gonna get some sheep, and East Frisian are the best for milking. Thankfully, Oregon's got a lot of farmland and a lot of sheep, or more than Rhode Island at least. So I was able to find some East Frisians and start milking them. And it was all pretty good until we had some pretty large animals come and eat the lambs, which was pretty devastating. I just finished bottle feeding them, got them out to graze, and like I think it was like a bobcat or something.
Oh man.
Yeah, just came and swiped them all. And then the sheep started getting pretty ornery after that. But for a while, it was pretty great, having fresh milk every day and being able to, just make a bechamel and make just really good mac and cheese. Like, just be like, wow, fresh from the teat. And now we're making mac and cheese,
Insane.
Yeah. And just kind of doing blends for like ricotta, just get some fresh cow's milk, add a little bit of the sheep's milk, and you just kind of get so many different flavor profiles. And it was interesting, feeding the sheep different things and kind of seeing how much the milk varied too. The farm I was staying at was attached, half of it was an apple orchard. So we had an apple tree on the property. And sometimes I'd let the sheep, go over and eat the apples, and other times there weren't apples growing at all. So they're just kind of eating alfalfa and oats. And with the oats too, once the grain starts sprouting, it becomes sweeter, like the malt for beer and barley. Once starts like its budding process or sprouting, it's just the sugar levels rise. So it's kind of interesting to see like when they're eating sweeter oats, kind of how the flavor also gets a little sweeter in the milk. And with the apples too, ripe apples are so high in sugar. It's like you're getting the sweetness, but you're also, I wouldn't say like acidic, but there are other types of acid that are in apple juice that aren't in grapes. So you kind of get these, I wouldn't say like, it is technically acid, but these flavors that are almost more like vegetal, like fresh, like apple peel, like that nice like blossom flavor, but still like a little bit of a tang, but not in like a sour milk way, just more of like a cultured milk, almost like a flavored kefir, which I thought was like kind of interesting.
Yeah, so it's like a whisper of whatever they were eating, which is kind of how
it reminds me of the scene in Napoleon Dynamite where he's like smelling the milk, and he's like, this one got into the onions. This one's bad.
It's like a milk savant.
That's how I felt in my little farmhouse in Oregon, just like
sniffing milk.
What was the sheep eating today? Weird.
How quickly would it affect the flavor of the milk?
Within like a day or two. It was pretty instant, just them digesting it.
And then once you would milk them, how many times would you milk them and have that same, like, you know what I'm saying? Like how long until it would kind of wear off in their digestive system?
It's probably like, I'd feed them the same thing for 3 or 4 days and then like maybe change like twice a week their diet. So like every 4 days, I'd like try to rotate from them like eating a lot of alfalfa to like grain to just grazing. But I would milk them normally twice a day when it was like peak lactation. Like once before work and then once after. I was cooking about a 40-minute drive away. So I was like, it was long days at work too. So I was just like getting up so early. And then I also had all the baby lambs that need to be bottle fed, which was a huge operation. Not a lot of people realize this, but since we've been domesticating sheep for so long, the mothering instinct is something that has also been kind of slowly taken away from sheep.
Oh, really?
Just especially with the East Frisian, because as a milking sheep, since we want that milk, a lot of people take the lambs and start bottle feeding them. Because a lot of them aren't used to mothering, it can slowly get lost. That could be a reason why these sheep were sold to me, is because they just weren't very good mothers. But I started doing more research. I was like, why do I was trying to let the baby lambs get the colostrum for the first week. I'm like, I'm not trying to steal the colostrum. This is so important for them when they're young. But some of like the moms, they wouldn't let the babies actually nurse. And I was like, this is so weird. Like, is this normal? And the more research I did, the more I found out about the history of domestication and how part of the mothering instinct has kind of been lost to the ages.
I never would have even imagined that. I thought it was just kind of programmed into animals, like
I thought so too.
But it's getting programmed out of them slowly through
domestication.
Time. Yeah, wow, that is fucking crazy, dude.
Yeah, the journey of milking. You learn things you never even thought.
Yeah, that's intense, dude. So they're losing their maternal instinct. Yeah. And is it just that breed of sheep, or is that like something that's common for cows and pigs and other things too?
I think it really depends on the purpose of the animal. So like if it's a cow that's going to be used for like meat, then potentially they'd wean them off early and send them out to the grazing field so they're not using all of their milk and nutrients for the baby. I think, it varies operation to operation. I mostly took a lot of my notes from the women that were teaching me how to milk the goats. And I was like, how do you run your operation? Like, what's the most like wholesome, kosher way to operate this where like the animal is getting what they need and also the young are also getting appropriate nutrition. And they were giving me I was using goat's milk too for the babies when I was bottle feeding. It was definitely a balance, doing all the things like milking the sheep in the morning, bottle feeding, going to work, bottle feeding the sheep. When the lambs were really small, I ended up bringing them to work sometimes and just plastic wrapped the whole inside of my car because they were babies and were shitting everywhere. And then I would be like on the line and have like a baby bottle of like formula. I'd be like tempering it in my pasta water, and be like, I'm gonna go take my break real quick and like run outside, be like smoking a cigarette and like bottle feeding the sheep while I'm like about to go into dinner service. And it was a lot of moving parts, but wow. A learning experience.
Yeah, that sounds really fucking hard. So you were working as a line cook too at the time.
Yeah, I was cooking at this hotel called the Allison. They have a restaurant called Jory, it was an interesting operation. They have like a farm on site and a vineyard. It's an open kitchen, so it's a nice setup. Leadership could have been a little better, but I met some really cool chefs while I was there. But yeah, it was definitely a runaround. I wish I was getting paid a little bit more for how much running around I was doing, but yeah, it was nice. Like we were doing some cool dishes with like ramps, and we're just growing ramps right at the property. And
not a lot of people know about ramps. That's very much like a thing that like I think some cooks and chefs know about, and then people who like grow them if it grows naturally in their area, they'll know about it. But like I'd never even heard of a ramp until I was 21.
Yeah, it's nice with niche produce to be working at a farm to table restaurant, which is kind of the thing I seek out when I'm cooking. I don't mind cooking at restaurants that don't have a farm, but it's kind of hard for me to really be like passionate about like what we're doing.
I think that makes sense, especially with your kind of like vegetarian background and appreciation for animals and everything. It's like why am I going to work for a place where everything comes out of styrofoam when there's places out there that are doing it the right way?
Yeah, that's the great thing about us being at Little Moss. It's like we got an herb garden on the roof, and Lisa spends so much time to talk to every single farmer every week and like personally go to the farm to do the pickups. I'm like, I just respect that so much.
It's incredible.
That's just like, sure, the restaurant isn't perfect, nothing's perfect, but like that to me is the most important thing.
But yeah, it's
on the
effort.
Hierarchy.
Yeah, it's the effort that's being put in, because you're right, nothing's ever perfect. You can never get it there. But I mean, to me, it's like that's like I was so excited. Like when I first got I was making agnolotti in the back, and like Peter came in with like bags of greens,
And he
covered
just
in
wants to
dirt
talk.
still.
He wants to talk about his lettuce.
Yeah, and he's like, man, I just want to deliver this on my bike. And I'm like, dude, this dude is so cool. Like,
These guys are
I'm
great.
so excited about
Yeah.
it. I want to go. I know Lisa said we might do like a little field trip to one of the farms, and I'm like so excited about it. I feel like Danny is super knowledgeable too, because he mentioned he worked on a farm for I think 6 years.
Yeah, it was in the neighborhood too, and we still buy produce from them. So it's like it's great when people in the kitchen also care about produce, and it's not just like you being like, man, I'm so excited about all this stuff that we're getting. It's cool when like your coworkers are also like, oh yeah, like this calendula is going to be in season for 6 more weeks, so we really have to like make our cheese board be calendula focused because like we don't have it forever. And you're like, yeah, no, that's a great point.
How do you? So you love working in this type of restaurant where it's like farm to table and everything. So how do you go about finding these restaurants?
Yeah,
Like,
that's
what's
really
your
the hard part.
Yeah.
Just like me as a person, I love doom scrolling on Google Maps under the restaurant tabs, and just like reading everybody's menu. And that's just like a thing that I like to doom scroll. I've been trying to move away from doom scrolling social media, but you know how it goes.
Dude, it's hard.
It's so hard. But thankfully, someone mentioned that Little Moss was hiring because they don't post their jobs very often, and it's normally word of mouth. And that's why it was so cool that you applied when you did, because everything just lined up.
Dude, yeah, it really was incredible timing because you came to Sail Lofts, kind of worked together a little bit, and then, but when you were there, the whole time I was like, God, like I want to like you're where I want to be, like at Little Moss, and I wanted to be there so bad, and now I am, which I'm excited about. But it really was good timing because it was like I was coming to the end of the year at Sail Loft, and then kind of started thinking about what the next step was, if we were going to move, if we were going to do this or that. And then my stepmother was like, oh, like we know Lisa and we know John. I didn't know that I was going to apply either way. I didn't know that they had a connection. And I was just like, hey, like maybe shoot Lisa like a text or something.
Yeah.
Because I would love to get in there. And I mean, I couldn't have chosen a worse time to try to get hired, like middle of winter. Legitimately the worst time in this area to get hired. But yeah, it kind of worked out.
Yeah, I mean, when I leave restaurants, especially ones I really like, I do my best to like give a really long notice, help find someone to fill my role, because I always feel terrible about leaving a place shorthanded. And we had been talking about you potentially coming in because we're like, Owen's been saying he's interested, but he hasn't reached out yet. And then when it finally happened, I was like, man, we've actually been talking about this for a while. It's crazy to see it all like lining up.
Yeah, right. The stars aligned.
Stars aligned.
Yeah, I wanted to be there for a while, but I was kind of doing like I need to finish this year here, even though I really was not having a good time. Not only just to be like, oh, I've been a sous chef on my resume, because it's like whatever, but it was more just I was kind of forcing myself to see if I could, because I have a big thing with interest. Like if I'm not interested in something, like it's so hard. I will just let it pass. Like my grades in school, like all the classes I didn't care about, is just like, I can get a C+ in this and not really care. But if I was interested, I would be like top of the class. And I was kind of testing to see if I could be a cook or be a chef in restaurants I wasn't necessarily interested in. So I kind of forced myself to do that for 2 years. But right as I was coming to the end of it, I was like, I'm done, dude. Like I need to like,
it's hard
to be excited about what I'm doing. Yeah. And yeah, stars align.
Yeah, it really is such a balance with the restaurants about like finding the balance of like, this fulfills the paycheck I need, and this like actually is the reason why I'm doing it.
Yeah, and this is really the first time that I'm getting paid, because when I was at Oscar, obviously I was stoked about it.
Yep.
But I wasn't getting paid. So this is the first time where I'm getting paid and I'm interested. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, I feel like that comes up in food a lot, where you're like, this is an incredible meal, but it's really expensive, and like, does the expense of this meal actually line up with how incredible it is? And then you'll have some meals that are so incredible. You're like, how was it only $5? Like, this is blowing my mind. Like, this is making me feel things I haven't in a long time. Like, this meal is making me emotional because it tastes so fucking
That's the
good.
X factor.
That's the X factor. It's like food has so much balance. It's kind of interesting to see where it falls on the grand scheme of things. And like, even when it comes to working at a restaurant, like there's this weird balance of like, can I actually sustain this for a long time? And does it actually like allow me to grow? And I think Little Moss is a great place to grow.
Yeah, I'm stoked. And I feel like I'm kind of starting over again, which is always like my dad is always like, you should never go backwards in your career. But he was a big business guy.
Fair.
So that makes sense in that industry. It's like once you kind of have a foothold as like a, maybe a manager or something, it's like he's like, you should never not be a sous chef again. That was kind of what he was talking. And I was like, that's fine, but like I don't think that's necessarily true because I'm fucking 24 and like
That was a great time
I
to
have
learn.
plenty of time to like this. If I'm gonna take steps back and just to learn, like this is when I can do. Like maybe not later in life, but like now is a great time. I remember the forward in On Vegetables. Jeremy Fox. He's talking about how he had a problem with substance abuse and everything, and he would kind of like get to a kitchen, work his way up, become head chef, and then all his problems would kind of catch up with him, and then he'd reset and literally just go back to like being a line cook and start over. And he did that like 5 or 6 times until he finally settled and had something that he was really happy with, and that's where he is now. But I'm like, dude, this dude reset like 6 or 7 times.
Totally.
So there's no linear path to success, and it's also like what do I even want? So it's like I don't even really know yet. So it's really just like I want to just learn and just improve.
I mean, that's the great thing about being young is you are more open to like feedback, and especially knowing that you don't know everything is really important, and like taking knowledge from other people and like actually being able to like use it. I feel like with winemaking, I look at it kind of like food in a way too, where they're both like art forms, and the people you learn from are master artists in a lot of ways. And like the way an artist goes about developing their skills is they do residencies with other master artists. And the more you learn from other masters, the more you can develop your techniques and pick up theirs. So it's like the more people you learn from, you can just you can gain all these techniques that you can use later. And working for winemakers is really cool because they're all kind of working with different soils, different like varietals, and different like specific varietals. Like within like Pinot, they'll have like 3 different clones, and some might perform better in some soil and others. They like sun and they don't care as much about the soil or whatever. So it's kind of cool, like learning from all these people in different situations. And if you just kind of stay on one track and just keep going up, like maybe you cut yourself off from like learning from all these masters of their craft, which 100%. Is like amazing about food and wine. It's just like you're opening yourself up to like a world of like techniques and possibilities. It's kind of awesome.
It kind of is. It makes me excited, dude.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm just like so curious about it. And I think that's a big thing is just curiosity, and what you said about like being willing to learn too. I think some people as they get older, they kind of close themselves off to it.
Yeah.
And like I've definitely worked with some chefs that are like that are like, yeah, dude, like I've been doing this for 26 years. Like I know what I'm doing.
It's my greatest fear, honestly.
Yeah, it's really sad. Because you're literally just plateauing yourself, basically. But then I had this French chef at school. Everybody called him Chef X. His name was Xavier, and he was like, I don't know, picture like a French chef, and that's exactly what he was and what he sounded like. Yeah. And I remember we were making an herb oil. I think it was like basil oil or something. And I had learned how to do it at Oscar with piping bags. And, kind of like snipping like letting it sit overnight in a piping bag, snipping the bottom off to get all the particulate out, and then you're just left with oil. And the way they were doing it was they were just kind of boiling the oil with the herbs, and then they would strain it twice. But then there's still like the particulate in it.
Yep.
And I mean, I was very intimidated by him and very like scared to even be like, hey, like there's a better way to do this. But I like plucked up the courage and I was like, hey, like, can I show you how I would do this? And he was like, absolutely. And so I showed him and like talked him through why I was doing it that way and where I learned it and like why I think it's better. And he was like, awesome, this is how we're going to do oils now. And like I went back to visit at one point. It's like, that's how they do oils. And it's just like that made me emotional at the time because I was like, wow, this dude is 75 and still just like curious and wants to just make it better. And like that is just like everything, like so beautiful to me.
It's the best.
The best.
It's great surrounding yourself with people like that because the amount of improvement that you see in yourself and the amount of like knowledge you gain, it's exponential compared to like a place where you're just doing it because it's good for the job and because you're only going up.
Yeah.
And you're like, I need a job where they're going to pay me more, or I have a better position. And sometimes you just have to sacrifice these things that actually are like the reason why you do it, you know?
Yeah.
It's hard.
It is, man.
It's a hard balance. I'm excited to travel a little bit more too, because I feel like sometimes even staying in just the same area, you know, things start to kind of homogenize at a certain point, and it's good to just like get something completely new and different. And I've only been in the States the past like 8 years. I haven't been international in a while, and I've been starting to kind of feel this like sameness of like cooking at bistros and like working with a lot of similar ingredients. And thankfully I got to work for a Filipino chef while I was in Oregon. Jonah, she works at Musang. She's like the head chef at Musang, and incredible chef. And she just works with so many ingredients that I would never think to use, that it really made me realize that like I have so much traveling I need to do just to understand how these palettes work and see them in a location, in a setting, to kind of understand like how this ingredient exists in the wild. And it's hard to do that all in the States, unfortunately, as much as I love being here.
Yeah. So, so I know you're taking kind of a weird path to get to New Zealand. So where are you going?
I'm going to Peru first, and I'm going to be in a pretty desertish area, Juan Chaco. But they're also one of the oldest seafaring communities in South America. And I'm really excited to just kind of see what it's all about, because there's so many ancient ruins there. Some of them are like as old as like 14,000 years old or something, or
wow.
4,000, 1,400, something like that.
Something like that.
They're old.
It's old as hell. Yeah.
They're really old. I figure if people are still here kicking it and fishing, then there's probably a little bit of tradition along the way. So I'm kind of excited to see, you know, what happens, and try to just go in really open-minded and not expect too much. And then when it all happens, it'll be that much sweeter.
Nice, dude.
Yeah. I'm also excited because I'm going to Indonesia along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And they have so many islands. It's like 1,700 islands.
Mm-hmm.
So there's all this different food, and it varies location to location. And the dishes are, you know, dishes always change person to person. I'm kind of interested to see just how much variation there can be. And that's honestly the reason that I'm like really excited about maybe even staying longer and trying to work in Australia, just because it is also close to Indonesia, and it seems like a country that large, with so many ingredients that I'm unfamiliar with. It kind of seems like the ultimate trip, just because it's ingredients beyond my wildest dreams, I imagine.
Dude, I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, I'm getting really stoked. One of my favorite things to do just anywhere is going to like a specialty grocery store and just like going through every aisle and looking at everything and just kind of seeing like what there is out there. And going to another country, it's like every store is a specialty store, you know?
Yeah, fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah, grocery store adventures.
Grocery store adventures.
I love a good field trip to the grocery store.
Hell yeah.
It's the best.
One of my best friends that I met at school, he's from Indonesia, from
Cool.
Jakarta,
No way.
and he always talks very highly of it. Like he goes back there and has a great time. I was supposed to go in February of last year, but it didn't. I think I'm going next year or the following or something. I'm not sure, but I am so excited. I've never been to Asia or Southeast Asia or
Yeah,
anything.
me neither.
But I'm sure you're in for like an incredible time. And whenever he makes me Indonesian food, or we went to Philadelphia, some really really good Indonesian food in Philadelphia.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, I didn't know that. And we went to this place called the Sky Cafe, and we had like beef rendang, which is like obviously a very prevalent dish for them. That's to him. That's like his like bread and butter. Like if that's like his go-to. We had like beef tongue, delicious, like just like grilled and shaved very
Yeah, I
thin
love
with like a
beef
nice
tongue.
sauce. They're big on the sweet soy sauce too. Love sweet soy sauce.
Me
like
too.
so incredible. And also the big standout one for me was we had this tofu. It was fried tofu with like a chili sauce. But the tofu, when you bit into it, it was like it looked like Spider-Man's webs. Like that's kind of how I remember it. And it was so airy and like there was just like these like this matrix of tofu in it, which I thought was really cool because normally I'm used to just having like tofu that's just like
Interesting.
whole and solid and just like a
more
sponge
of
kind
a
of
firmer tofu.
yeah, which is good. But this I couldn't stop eating this one.
It was
really,
just so soft.
it was so soft. Yeah, it was like
love
like a little pillow, but it was also fried and crispy and yeah,
That's the best. Dude.
crazy food.
Yeah, so much tofu out there, so little time.
Yeah, for sure. No, but that's going to be incredible. So Peru, Indonesia, and then New Zealand, or is there another stop?
I'm going to Hawaii on the way to Indonesia, so it's like Peru, Hawaii, Indonesia to New Zealand. But yeah, about the same price as just flying to New Zealand. So I figured, why not?
Why not fucking globetrot?
Yeah, it's funny too because like I was unsure in the beginning about cooking, like if it was something that I wanted to pursue professionally. Um, but I was always like a really big fan of Anthony Bourdain,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, it is a food show, but it's also like it's a travel show. Like it's
Yeah.
like a going out and just like seeing the world with really like pure and just like a raw experience. It's like kind of unlike anything else. And cooking can be such a cool way to kind of get like that really raw, pure, uncut experience. And, you know, traveling also fulfills that in a lot of ways where you're just like, I'm kind of getting it all, like the full experience, like the food, the place, the people. It's just like, it's all so cumulative and all encompassing. It's like hard to not get addicted to that. And when I realized that food can take you to all these places and can like open up your mind in a way that might not be as all encompassing as just going somewhere because you really like the beach and like just relaxing.
Yeah, I think that's like what inspires me to want to travel.
Yeah.
Like very similar sentiment is like I could really give a fuck about like going to see like a monument or like sightseeing. I've never been. I mean, some sites are really cool.
It's cool,
but again, it's cool for like
but it's not everything.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
But I'm like food is just like food is culture. Like it really brings people together and is a way for people to express their own culture in all these different ways. And like you're saying with Indonesia, they have all these different islands, and I'm sure a bunch of these different islands have their own individual cuisines that are just like, and it's like you can never learn it all. Like the world is a big place, you can never see it all, and that's like so exciting. Like so
They say
cool.
it takes 40 years to try all of the dishes in Indonesia.
40 years.
40 years.
Yeah, well, better start now.
I know. I'm trying to get started. I'm a little behind schedule, but I guess by the time I'm 70.
There you go. Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
So are you going to Australia too or no?
I haven't gotten a visa there yet, but it's my last year, I think, to apply because I just turned 30. And once you turn 31, you're not eligible. But up until you turn 31, you can apply for visas.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
So I'm trying to score all my visas before I turn 31.
Brilliant. If you go to Australia, you should go hang with Josh Josh Nyland. He's
Josh. Okay.
he's the guy that did those 3 books at the bottom, kind of like changing how people cook fish. He kind of started the whole. I don't know if he started the fish dry aging thing, but he definitely was like a huge advocate of it, like
Nice.
very, like the loudest voice. And also just like the way he butchers fish is so cool. Like he treats fish like meat, which I really think is cool. Like he does like swordfish.
Get a stage.
Yes, dude. Yes, I think his restaurant is called St. Petersburg. And yeah, crazy stuff. They'll take swordfish and they'll kind of French the bones and then dry age like a swordfish, but they'll treat it like a ribeye because then it has the ribs. Mm-hmm. And then you'll get like a swordfish T-bone, and cool. And they'll make tuna sausages and tuna lasagna. It's very interesting. Like those books really kind of like shifted my perception on fish, because normally fish is just like saute it or eat it raw or something.
Yeah, poach it.
Yeah, poach it. But definitely cool stuff there. If I go to Australia, that's my number one place I want to go check out.
Yeah, I worked for an Australian restaurant when I was in Oregon called Proud Mary, and the chef there, Barney, is the man. Awesome dude. I think he's in like Texas maybe now, but he grew up in the outback, and I guess they have special permits there for hunting kangaroo, and he talked to me a little bit about the process of cooking a kangaroo, and I was like, man, I am so curious if I'm ever going to come across this in the real world.
Yeah.
And now that, this shit's hitting the fan and I'm almost 31, I'm like, I guess now is a great time to go
cook some kangaroo.
Go find out what kangaroo tastes like, I guess.
I think I saw kangaroo meat one place. There was a specialty grocery store kind of near the CIA in Hyde Park. I think the shop was in Poughkeepsie. And they had like guinea pig and ostrich, and we definitely tried ostrich. I remember because my friend made an ostrich tartare, and it was
it's pretty wild.
It was very gamey, very very stringy
tartare.
Yeah.
What do you dress it with?
He did very traditional, like shallots, egg yolk, like parsley, herbs, lemon.
So it's not like chicken where you really got to cook that stuff.
No, yeah, it's like a red meat. It's very very red, like a kind of similar to duck.
Nice. But
even more red, honestly. It looked like steak, like it just looked like a steak tartare, but it was ostrich. I can't imagine hunting a kangaroo.
I think you need a special permit. I don't know enough about it, but they're like protected to a degree. Who knows? Maybe it's like deer where you just need to pull a tag.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I know there's a ton of them.
Oh, really? They're like kind of
kangaroo.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's a problem because like. I think, what is it, like the dingoes or something? There is an animal that was its natural predator, and I'm pretty sure since it's gone, the new natural predator is just cars. Just a lot of people are hitting them with
the best predator. Fucking cars.
I'm about to find out. I really don't know enough about the situation, but I liked making meat pies at the Australian restaurant. It was...
Dude, meat pie. That is such a special dish to me, being French Canadian. It's like one of the few...
Québécois.
Yeah, man. Love it. It's like one of the few recipes I have from my grandmother. That is like so special to me, like a good meat pie. So good. I saw a video of someone in Australia one time, and they were like paragliding, and then they landed in a field, and fucking 3 kangaroos just jumped him. Like as soon as he landed, they were like, boom, boom. Like he just landed.
Poor guy.
I know, what a horrible thing.
Yeah.
They're kind of human-like. I feel weird hunting them. They have like arms and they stand on their 2 legs.
They have arms and they stand,
Yeah. Like imagine having one in your scope, dude. It would just be like, dude, this like feels very wrong.
Yeah, Kangaroo Jack. That movie really stuck with me, man.
I've never seen Kangaroo Jack.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's good, but I loved it as a child. It was one of my favorites. Yeah, just about living the Aussie life and using a kangaroo as a mule for large sums of money. Something for for future thought.
We're kind of in this process right now trying to watch more movies, like older movies, because I feel like
you don't need to put that one on the list.
Yeah, it's good. Top of the list.
If you're like a little stoned and you're like, man, I just want to watch something mindless. Kangaroo Jack.
Word.
So mindless.
But even like I love movies like that. Like just silly movies sometimes are like the best ones. Like
Like Pineapple Express.
Yeah, fucking love
Mindless
that movie.
but beautiful.
Yes, crazy movie.
Mm.
So cheese making, not to circle back, but I'm going to.
Go for it.
So I don't have a ton of experience with it. I've only ever really made ricotta. I made it there at Little Moss, and I made it at Oscar at one point when one of the chefs was making a cheesecake, and which was just kind of like, it never went on the menu, but it was like experimental. And so I understand you heat the milk up, you add acid, rennet, some type of, what's the word for that?
Like a catalyst, I guess.
A catalyst. So you add some type of catalyst, which separates them, and then you strain it off. You have whey, and then you have the milk solids. And so where do you go from there? Because I assume when you make it with a different type of milk, it's still a similar process, but how do you go from ricotta, like a soft cheese that's just like quite literally milk solids, how do you go from that to a harder cheese? And what's the aging process like as well?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many cheeses. It varies across the board. So fresh cheeses are what I have the most experience with, and sounds like you also. And fresh cheeses they generally are happening just within the cheese curd, which is like before you strain out your whey, and it's all just kind of floating, your solids. You have like that casein kind of just like curd that is settling to the top, and that can be used for all sorts of things, like the inside of your burrata. That's just going to be that that pure solid that's floating on the top here before it fully is like pressed into like ricotta, or before you knead it into like mozzarella. You just have that curd, and that curd is great because some people just sell it so that you don't have to do that first step. You don't have to boil it. You don't have to make it coagulate. You can just buy the curd, which I think is pretty cool that that's available for restaurants. That being said, if you want to take it further into a harder, firmer cheese, normally that's going to involve some washing of the curd and pressing, where you're just literally trying to get all that liquid out. And that could look like using a cheese press, where you're going to use a certain amount of force depending on like how firm of cheese you want to do. And then once you press it, you might wash the curd again in the whey. And by washing the curd, you're like kind of encouraging it to release even more liquid, and to kind of just help that firming of the outer edge. And then when you press it again, sometimes you'll do multiple cycles for like manchego. Manchego, some people do like a three rinses on it while they're going through the press cycle, just to really kind of help solidify that shape. Whereas like if you're doing a cheese that is going to get like dipped in a wax, maybe like a cheddar, you don't have to wash the rind as much, because you're not going with the cheese's natural rind. And then, aged cheeses where you're like letting it kind of get moldy, or you're inoculating it, like a blue cheese gorgonzola, that, you're going to be like in there with a paintbrush almost. So you're not going to wash the rind too many times, because, I guess it depends on the blue cheese. Some of them are a little looser on the inside, almost more reminiscent of like a brie. So those are going to be, depends how much you're going to press it, but you're going to like paint it with what is it? Penicillin. I think that's what they use for inoculating it. The blueness. You're going in there with a brush, you like paint it, get it fully covered so that it starts its molding process. And then you're going to inject it with more penicillin. So sometimes when you're like cutting into blue cheese, you can kind of see the streaks of the injection.
Yeah, I got some blue cheese from Blue Hill Farm in Marion, and it was very like clear, like I could literally see like the diameter of the needle that they were using. Yeah,
it's really cool.
It is.
It's just wild how much cheese varies across the spectrum. There's so many different ones, and it's fun once you get into the blends, like triple creams. You have like multiple different.
What's triple cream? I've only heard of double cream.
So a triple cream, normally you have like cow, goat, and sheep's milk. And then you can blend them in different ratios depending on.
So those were the blends you were talking about earlier that are kind of cool.
Yeah. So like the triple cream breeds are my favorite, and so cool, like using different milks and balancing them based on like their flavor profile and kind of finding that perfect blend, which is something that we also like talk a lot about in wine, making your perfect blended wine. And just kind of tasting from different batches and seeing like what flavors are reflected. I know a lot of cheese makers, they have like, they work with the same dairies and they have it really dialed. So it's not like every batch is going to be different. Whereas like wine, things change a lot year to year.
So it's a lot more like environmentally dependent.
Yeah.
I mean, cheeses too, but wine, I feel like, is so much so. Like you can really taste like the difference in the soil just from like this vineyard to that one over there, which is like 200 yards away.
Yep.
Yeah.
One end of the road to the other end.
Literally.
So it'd be cool to talk to Sweet and Salty Farm. They're our cheese purveyor at Little Moss, and they have some just incredible cheeses. That's
one of my game plans. Is the first like 20 podcasts I'm doing are just kind of like people I know. I mean, obviously we haven't known each other for a super long time, but I feel like we were fast friends.
We're line cooks.
Yeah, bro. We're fun. Yeah,
it's easy.
But yeah, kind of just starting with people I'm like comfortable with. Like tomorrow I'm going to New York to see Joshua, who's my friend from Indonesia.
Oh yeah.
We're going to eat at the Modern, which I'm super stoked about. That's where he's working right now.
Oh yeah.
And then I'm going to do one with him, and I might do actually one with him and his girlfriend Fong. She's from Vietnam.
Oh cool.
And she also went to the CIA. She was in class with us. So maybe we'll do one like all together. But yeah, just doing it with people I'm comfortable with. And then after that, I'm going to really look at like I really want to talk to more farmers and purveyors, cheesemakers, winemakers. Like I'm just so interested.
Specialty.
Yeah, and I don't know a lot about it. You don't learn about that at school. Like you just don't. There's no cheese making program.
They can only go so deep.
Yeah, I mean, you learn about the winemaking process. Like I took Wines 101, but like
you can only.
It's very surface level, and it was very like regional. We were really just learning about like different areas of the world and how their wine is. That was like the main focus. But yeah, after the first couple of just like people I'm familiar with, I really want to start talking to people, and I was going to reach out to the Little Moss farmers. It's just like literally just a list of people that I'm like, I want to talk to everybody here. List. Yeah. I'd love to talk to Lisa too, have her on. I'm sure. I don't really know a lot about her experience as a chef, but I know that I think she started at Little Moss. This is her first time being a chef.
Which is awesome because you meet so many chefs that sometimes become jaded through the industry, that it can be hard to work with them just because they can become so set in their ways.
Yeah.
It's really interesting working with folks who have not had a ton of negative experiences in that industry or have done such a good job kind of curating their experience, where they're only trying to work in like really positive kitchens. I really enjoy that and try to seek out kitchens like that for the most part, just because I've had my share of negative experiences in the kitchen. And I'm like, there are some amazing kitchens out there, and it's great to find them and be part of those communities. It was really cool though. One of my favorite wineries, Lingua Franca, that I worked at for 2 harvests. One of my coworkers there, he was into cheese making. And it's funny how much all of the different food industries kind of cross over, where you'll meet restaurant people while you're working harvest, and you'll meet some old guys who just like making cheese. And he mostly did like Alpine cheeses. So a lot of firmer cheeses, washed, wash rinds. And, he kind of had his style that he liked to stick with. He didn't really do a lot of soft cheeses. He's just like, I'm a climber, I'm a skier, I like making wine, so I make soft cheese or firm Alpine cheeses.
Why is it called Alpine cheeses?
I mean, they're just more traditional for like the high country. Like a soft cheese is gonna kind of solidify once it gets cold. Kind of gets a little stiffer. Doesn't travel as well as like an Alpine cheese, which is like pretty firm. And it's just like you can take it, throw it in the backpack, and just rip it. I'm sure there are other reasons. Like I said, wish I had gone deeper into the cheese making. It's not too late, but there's just too much
Never
to
too
learn,
late, bro. Never
too
too
much
late.
to learn.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about YouTube.
YouTube's
It's
great.
like, yeah, obviously it's way better to learn from the source, from someone who's done it,
Yeah.
and like have a master. But yeah, dude, YouTube's amazing. I'm definitely gonna watch some cheese making videos after this. You're making me hyped. I want to start making some cheese.
It's awesome. I mean, the equipment that you need for it is pretty minimal for the most part. Until you get into like doing longer aging of cheeses, and you need like some more specialty fridges just for maintaining humidity and temperature. Because I mean, that's kind of what differs like your soft cheeses from your Alpine is like a soft cheese just doesn't require like as much tempering throughout the whole process, because normally you're going to eat them within a couple days or a week anyway. So like a brie doesn't take like more than a month for the most part. Some of them are like, I mean, a brie noir is a longer soft cheese. I mean, it's getting pretty hard at that point. It like starts discoloring a little bit. I don't know if you've had brie noir.
I don't think I have.
It's like basically like an aged brie almost, and it's kind of interesting when you're like looking at. They'll say like how long they age each brie, and just having a lineup of them, and you're like, oh, this one's been aged for like 6 months. This one's been aged for like 2 years, and it's like turning into like a brick.
Whoa.
And you're just like, this isn't really what I think of when I think of like brie, or soft, fresh cheese.
How does salt play into it? Because when you're making cheese, you're kind of, I feel like you're preserving, it's kind of a form of preservation in a way. Like it's not just like, I'm just making this cheese. It's like you're kind of making milk, like when you go back to why people used to make cheese, it's like you're kind of making it last. I'm very interested in preserving and like fermenting and different types of preservation.
I don't know about salt use really. I haven't really salted any cheeses I've made, but Parmesan is so naturally salty. But I'm not sure if that is just from how long it's aged and how much of the lactose has like just been kind of like digested and gone through like an enzymatic process that it creates those crystals. Because it happens with cheddar too. I'm pretty sure that is just like a product of like the aging of cheese is like the development of like salts.
But people don't usually add salt to cheese.
I imagine it happens. I normally just salt it like my fresh cheese, when I'm serving it, but be a good thing to explore. I've never personally salted cheese when making it, but I don't see why not.
I'm asking mostly because like when you ferment, like lacto ferment something, usually it's like, okay, you put 2% by weight of the salt, and that's just to like make sure that you kind of are controlling the microbes and you're not really getting any of the bad ones.
Totally.
I was wondering if there's something similar in cheese where it's like, because it's milk, solids, and which I assume can spoil after in the cheese process. So like, how do you avoid cheeses, especially when you're aging? How do you avoid them kind of going off?
I mean, it's kind of a controlled spoilage ultimately.
That's true. Yeah.
So that's why I salt my fresh cheese like when I'm about to eat it, but I feel like most of the boiling of the milk initially, when you're like getting it up to temp, I mean, I know a lot of it has to do with like making sure it coagulates properly, but maybe part of that also has to do with like killing of bacteria. I wish I knew more about cheese.
That's okay. I'm just curious.
I think that might be part of it.
Because I can imagine if you're aging a cheese and you don't press it properly and there's like an air pocket in it, that could be like
possible
problematic.
Spoilage.
Yeah, for sure. Interesting. Yeah, I love preservation and like curing, dry aging, fermenting. All that stuff is like so sick.
I know.
So sick.
I feel like I've been interested in it for a while, and I've read the Noma fermentation book.
Sweet book.
I love it, and I still feel like I haven't done all of the things. So I'm still like scratching the surface. I'm like, I need to dive deeper into all these things. But
I kind of feel similar. Like I've done a lot of lacto fermenting, which is very, very simple, very straightforward. But then like I've never made koji. I really want to try that. I want to try making garums as well. I remember Lisa mentioned that they tried to make a garum at one point at Little Moss, and then like right before harvesting it, like it spilled in the backyard, and it was like mackerel guts fucking everywhere. Like that's been sitting there for 6 months. Like, gnarly. Oh man, yeah, gnarly. She said that was not a good day for cleaning it up.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
The biggest thing in that book that blew my mind was like soybeans being made into miso.
Yep.
And then the miso is pressed, and then the liquid that comes off of that is soy sauce, like shoyu. Yep. And I remember just thinking, like, what the fuck? Like, that is incredible. Because also koji is played into that as well. I think koji is the precursor to miso, and then miso, they press it, and then the liquid comes off is soy sauce, which is like so ingrained. And
I love the soybeans, man.
Yeah, incredible.
I'm very thankful to have been raised a vegetarian and to value the soybean the way that I do, because I love them. They're the best. Soy milk, soy sauce, miso, it's the best. It does so much.
Miso is incredible. Underrated for sure. Maybe overrated nowadays, but I still think it's not utilized enough. I love miso.
You can make miso out of a lot of things too. A chef that I'm friends with, she lives in Portland. Her name's Jo. She's really into making miso, and she does salad workshops. And in her salad workshops, she makes a lot of different dressings, and miso is so versatile. It can really create a lot of different flavors, especially when I started kind of experimenting with this a little bit too, is the liquid that comes off the miso can be a really good base for like marinades and sauces. And she really opened up my mind to a lot of the possibilities with like, what do you do with these leftover liquids that are your byproduct that still have a lot to offer, even though they're not the miso, it's not the thing that you're making.
100%. I think about that too with lacto fermenting. I did peaches one time, and you get the peaches, and that's great, but the liquid that comes off is like this salty, acidic, bright, like just incredible just by itself. And I remember I just made like a salad, but I took branzino and kind of sliced it like sashimi, and then just kind of marinated it in that. And then I also used that same juice for the vinaigrette. And then the peaches were also in the salad. So it's like all the different things coming together into this one dish. That was the first time I ever used like a fermented product that I fermented in cooking. And it was like, it's just a salad, but like it was so much more.
It's more than that.
Yeah, it was just like, wow, this took a week to get there. And
it's peach 5 different ways.
Yeah, it's incredible. And to me, that's like so exciting. Like I get so excited about that type of thing, because I feel like cooking, especially like French cooking, which is kind of my base, is very much like cream, butter, champagne, like very rich flavors, but very mellow flavors. I don't want to say bland, because there are some big flavors in French cooking. But I find it very mellow and rich. That's kind of like the common theme.
Yeah, it's not like extreme.
Right. And I think that like fermentation is such a great way to just impart like big flavors in kind of like a really elegant way. That's also just like, this is also like, oh, hey, this is how we preserved food like a long time ago.
Yeah.
Which is just so cool to me. Like, so cool.
Yeah. Pickling, I feel like, is like cheese, where it's just so endless that I'm like, I've worked as the pickle guy in some jobs, but I'm like, I'm just scratching the surface, like it's like wine. It's like I've been doing wine for like 7 years and just scratching the surface. It's great because it's so humbling, but it's also so inspiring to be like, I'm never going to run out of things to be interested in this thing that I already love. Like, it's just going to keep growing. People are going to keep trying new things, and we're all going to keep sharing information. And it's never going to go away. It's just going to get more and more complex.
Fuck yeah. I when I kind of decided like, okay, I wanna, because I was in college before, and I kind of was like, all right, I'm gonna cook. From that point on, like my life has been very different than it would have been, and my sentiment is like I really enjoy going through life as a cook. Like it is a really cool way to go through life and appreciate food and like kind of have food be at the core, like not just as a way to like make money and like support myself, but like just at the like core of my life is food. And like I think that that's like super cool.
Yeah.
And like just a very fun way to go through life. And you meet really cool people too. Like that's
It's expensive.
Yeah.
Everybody eats.
Yeah, everybody eats. Everybody, that's the craziest thing is everybody needs to eat.
Yep.
But like if that was solely the only reason we ate, we would all just be on protein pills and that would be it. But yeah, people like to eat too, which is so cool.
Yeah, a lot of my friends in high school and just growing up, I was like kind of drawn to people who, you know, like to cook and just kind of hang out. And I'm really thankful that I know a lot of people who are just like amazing cooks, even though they don't cook full time. And those are the people that kind of drew me in early because they're just kind of like they had good taste.
Mm-hmm.
And like people who have good taste, you know, they're going to be everywhere, and they might never be chefs. They probably won't be, but they still have incredible recipes. And like I feel like there's still a lot I can learn from them, even though they just don't do it professionally. It's kind of awesome because like there are just so many people in the world who are like really good at this one dish, and they're never going to make it for that large of a group. And you just have to hope that the stars align and that you like meet this person who happens to make the best like dashi in the world, and you'll be like, wow, who knew?
That's very true. There's a lot of
fun.
incredible cooks who will never actually be like a professional cook or a professional chef. Like I remember my sister made a tomato sauce one time, and to this day it's the best tomato sauce I ever had. And she'll never cook professionally, but she's just like such a great cook. My dad too, like he sells himself short because he's just like, oh, I just grill. But I'm like, dude, yeah, but like when you grill vegetables and meat, like to me that's like you. Like
You
it's like
ace it
yeah, exactly.
every
Like
time.
you kill it. Like
It's an extension of the person.
it is.
It's a
And
cool
it
thing.
makes us all up too when you really start thinking about it. We're all just made of food.
You are what you eat.
That's so true. And
That's
I've
why
been
I'm a
eating,
dinosaur chicken nugget.
Yeah, dude. It's so funny you say that because I've been like on a strict ramen and chicken nugget and frozen food diet the past week. Because when we went skiing,
Nice.
we got an Airbnb. My mom's brought like a bunch of like Trader Joe's appetizers that were like all frozen, and we ate like maybe a fourth of them over the 2 days we were there. And so at the end, they're like, "All right, who wants to take these?" And me and Luke just divided them up. And so I was like, I'm not going to spend money on food. We're just going to eat this. So we've literally been eating like
We got an air fryer.
spanakopita, spinach artichoke dip, like like fucking
sounds
pigs
great.
in a blanket. Just like that's been like my diet the past week, and I definitely have been feeling it. I'm like, I literally
Nice.
am a fucking pigs in a blanket right now.
Yeah.
Not in a great way. It hurts your stomach after a while. But
The last place I worked, we would do staff meal for 80 people because we're at a hotel.
Mhm.
And sometimes I would make pigs in a blanket for like 80 people.
oh man,
Just rolling dogs.
so good.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I love it.
Pigs in a blanket, amazing food, dude. I bet it would be even better if you did it with like a really nice sausage instead of like a hot dog, because I don't know, hot dogs feel very cheap to me.
Yeah. I mean, there's good hot dogs, there's bad hot dogs.
Yeah.
Hot dogs is a spectrum.
Yeah. My favorite thing to do with hot dogs is to do the thing where you cut them with scissors and then you kind of cut them vertically like that,
yeah.
and then you saute them and they turn into a little octopus.
Yeah, we call them spider dogs. in my
Yeah,
friend
yeah,
group.
I love doing that. Like with mac and cheese too, just like little hot dog octopus.
We love
So
a spider
satisfying.
dog. Yeah, no, I'm really thankful. My friends were big hot dog people. I mean, mostly Chicago dogs for the
Mhm.
the most part, but we don't discriminate. Corn dogs,
Corn
they're all
dogs are
good.
Fire.
There's this amazing spot. I don't know if it's still there in Portland, Oregon. It's called Frank's a Lot, and they make their own sausage. They make vegan sausage, and they corn dog them, and they'll have like 8 different types of sausage you can pick from, 2 different batters, and just drive-through.
Sounds fucking unreal.
It was in a Whole Foods parking lot.
I've heard a lot about Portland, Oregon's like food scene. Seems
love it,
pretty
man.
pretty intense, like pretty amazing.
It's great because it's like LA and it's like Seattle, and that it has everything, but it's just a little bit more approachable, I think, just because it's less people and kind of more of a neighborhood vibe.
I really want to go because that book there, Flour, Water, Salt, Yeast, is kind of the book I reference when I make bread, and that's where the bakery is set up, Ken's Bakery.
That's
I
pretty
really
good.
want to go there and like check it out and like say what's up to him. I would love for this podcast to like get to a point where I can reach out to people like that, so I can like just go talk to him, because that's the whole point. Is it's Owen by the oven. So like at some point, and the reason we use these mics is because at some point, like there's no table, we're not sitting here with like headphones and stuff, is because at some point it's going to be I go to chefs,
Yeah.
and we sit by their oven, and I would love to like talk to people like that.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I like the "You Are Beautiful" sticker on your microwave.
Oh, thanks.
It slaps.
We have two of them. We have one there, and then I'll show you upstairs after. Give you the house tour. But it's I have like a little bulletin board in my room, like one of those dry erase ones, and I have another one of those "You Are Beautiful" on there.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, self-affirmations help a lot.
Yeah. I might have to get cooking soon. I don't know what time it is.
I also don't know what time it is.
I got a phone right here.
It is 12:02.
Oh.
You want to finish? You want to wrap it up?
Should we wrap it up?
Let's wrap it up. I want to end with one question, which
Okay.
I've been asking everyone so far. So why? I mean, we kind of touched on it already, but why do you cook? Like, what is cooking to you, and why do you pursue it so vigorously?
Oh man, I mean, cooking is kind of the ultimate adventure, and I would hate to not live the ultimate adventure. You know, it sounds so enticing.
Yeah,
I really am
put it
just
like
kind of
that.
I'm looking for it all. At the end of the day, you know, I love climbing crazy things. I love going out and going to far off places and getting into shenanigans. I feel like cooking just goes hand in hand with getting into some crazy shenanigans for the
Fuck
most
yeah.
place. And
Crazy shenanigans, crazy people.
oh man, it's endless, and it's only getting better from my experience. So I love it, man.
Hell yeah, dude.
Do it for the love. Do it for the adventure.
Do it for you.
Hell yeah.
Fuck.